Kev, you want us to get started?
Yeah, it's only going to be a very, very short idea. So last week's parasha Shoftim, uh, one of the prohibitions is to not give a bribe, and that mainly relates to the legal system, judges in a court case, police, etc. Um, and even if the judge, it says, even if the judge will act truthfully. It shouldn't be, one shouldn't give, bribes should not be given to judges because it's unethical and it clouds their judgment, so to speak. And then practical example of this is that a person's involved in a lawsuit against their neighbor, offers the judge a bottle of fine wine. And even if the judge plans to rule according to the law, accepting the wine is forbidden. This is because the gift, even though insignificant, can subtly or subconsciously influence the judge's decision. So they shouldn't even accept anything of any value, um, because that'll cloud their judgment, and they won't judge fairly in the court case.
Okay. Just are you talking about in terms of the objectivity, Kev?
Yeah, sure. And they'll be biased towards one of the defendants, one of the accused defendants. They'll be accused. They'll be they'll show favoritism where it should be totally. There won't be any impartiality.
Okay. Uh, all right, I'm ready to get started as long as you can all hear me. Um, then that's perfect. All right. So what I'm going to just do is I'm going to just share the mission in a second. Give me one sec. Sorry, I think we've all had a bit of a day, but whatever we can do, let's try. So it says a father is exiled as a result of inadvertently killing his son,
No, don't. Okay, it's come up now.
and the son is exiled as a result of inadvertently killing his father. So we reconciled the fact that if the father is participating in a mitzvah by teaching his son Torah or trade, then for an inadvertent killing, that means he's not subject to go to exile. But if it's a non-mitzvah based activity, he is liable to go to exile, as if he was taking his son in the forest and an accident happened with an axe and a handle. Um, so our question now goes is how can a son be exiled as a result of inadvertently killing his father? Because if you have a look, this is where the issue comes in. How many of you, is there anybody that didn't go through the pages I sent them with the discussion of Rabbi Shimon and the rabbis? Did anybody not have a chance to go through it? It's fine, just tell me.
Yeah, 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 I didn't go through it.
Okay, Arth, did you go through it? Thumbs up or down?
Also couldn't. Also
Okay.
didn't.
That's okay. Look, as long as you can see there is work that went on, I'm going to give the simplest explanation possible. And I'm just going to share the screen quickly, and then we'll just get on with it. Sorry, guys, we've all had a bit of a day. I'm sure you have as well. Okay. Tell me when the screen appears to you, guys.
Yeah, give us a second. Is a slight problem with your network? It's fine. It's
Yeah.
up.
I was going to cancel the share, but I thought if it's too much of a problem, you guys would tell me. So has it appeared on your side? I know it's difficult for Simpson.
Yeah, it's up. It's up.
Okay. So we just touched on it, but I just want to keep it simple. There are four different methods of execution which were delegated by the court in descending order of severity. Obviously, then the most severe would be stoning, burning, beheading, and strangulation. That's according to the Tanna Kamma, the rabbis. According to Rabbi Shimon, The most stringent is burning, the second most stringent is stoning, de-escalating to strangulation and beheading. So the main thing that we're going to focus on is the fact that the rabbis say that beheading is more severe than strangulation, and Rabbi Shimon is saying that strangulation is more severe than beheading. So we've got two problems with this. We see a issue with the Brisa and our current Mishnah. And the Brisa issue is as follows, is that we basically are not 100% sure how to resolve the contradiction. Because our Mishnah said if a son kills his father, inadvertently he goes into exile. But the contradiction is as follows, is that Brisa uses the phrase, he who strikes a person dead. Now, what does it actually mean? Is that in Numbers chapter 35, verse 11, it says, and a murderer who one has struck a person dead inadvertently shall flee to one of the cities of refuge. So where the contradiction comes um, is that there seems to be a specific stringency when striking one's father. That's what the Gemara says. Obviously, it could also be one's mother. The reason why it's relating to a father and a mother is it was contrasting this with the previous uh, Mishnah about the exemption from exile for inadvertently killing your son while either teaching him a trade or educating him, and there was corporal punishment to get him to be more self-disciplined. So by that use, there's a contrast. Is if one struck a normal look, in other words, for
Damon, can you let Aiden in? He's asking to be let into the group.
yeah, with pleasure, with pleasure. Aiden, are you in? Can you hear us?
How's it? Yeah, all good.
All right. So the contradiction is that you've got two different death penalties that occur if a son strikes his father. You've got the that results in death. You've got a death penalty with a general injunction that a human being cannot murder another human being. This is not only a issue relating to Jews, but an issue relating to one of the 7 Noahide laws that you shall not murder. Then you've got a different injunction that's specifically for one's parent, that if you strike a parent and you cause bruising, in that particular case, there's the death penalty that also results. So one of the things that I wanted to mention to you is that the other day I did mention this. Rav Simcha Steinhauer mentioned that his late Rabbi Aaron Pfeiffer said that the reason why, because you could think, why would it be stringent enough to get the death penalty, is that the court can have certain cases where maybe there's a long-standing stress between a father and a son. They get into an argument, and a son can kill his father. But if it's a case of almost going under the radar and bruising a parent or torturing them or breaking a finger when a parent is a lot elderly and frail because they might have had a lifetime of abuse from the parent, then that to a certain extent is more sinister because they don't want to get punished for it, and therefore that's payback time. So that's why the Torah takes it so seriously. So the bottom line of it is, as far as the Sanhedrin is concerned, if there are two different death penalties, what we give is the more severe death penalty. The reason being is there is a death penalty for wounding one's parent, and the second death penalty is killing one's parent. So obviously, any killing of one's father would result in a wound prior. I mean, how else would you do it unless you drown him? Most likely, it would be from being struck. So the question is, if that's on purpose, what would happen in inadvertence where you didn't mean to wound a parent or you didn't mean to kill a parent, but there was an accident that happened. So that's just how we've set it up. And it says, well, what do we do with that apparent contradiction? So basically, we apply obviously certain principles. So according to Rav Kahana, He said, look, if you look at the Brisa, there's no difficulty if you're comparing it to the Mishnah, because the Mishnah is turning around and saying that a son who wounds and then as a result kills the parent goes into exile. So how is that possible when the Brisa said that it's so severe that the son is not allowed the aspect of atonement should it occur inadvertently? Does everybody see the question for starters before I go into the specifics?
Yeah.
Okay, Aiden, give it back to us. You're not picking on you, but you're just young and sharp.
I'm not feeling too sharp.
It's okay. Do your best.
Okay. Okay. There's a contradiction between these two guys. I don't know their names.
Sure.
What are they?
So you have the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, and you have an opinion of the rabbis, quite simply. Yeah.
Okay, so just the Rabbonim.
Yeah, the Tanakama, when we use the phrase Tanakama, I'm sure you've done this with your uncle, is it refers to the general opinion of the rabbis. It's both unanimous, meaning they all agree, and anonymous, meaning non-specific, because they all agree. So one person doesn't stand out, or one rabbi doesn't stand out. So the Tanakama is a phrase used to describe the general rabbinic opinion. So it's the Tanakama versus Rabbi Shimon, which is basically they hold two different views. So what does the rabbis hold, and what does Rabbi Shimon hold? This is basic stuff. This is something that we all
So, so there's a disagreement in the punishment for striking one's father and killing him, right? One would be exile and one would be death penalty.
Okay, so the first thing is I'm pleased you're grappling with this, because if you're grappling with it, everybody else is. So what we're doing is
I'm not completely focused, sorry.
No, there's no apology. We're just learning with friends. Believe me, there's no apology needed at all. So trust me, everybody's had a day. Lance has been cooking in the sun on a civil engineering job. My head's been spinning, and I've been at the vet or the doctor, whatever shots they give me, and everybody's been working a full day. So there's no need to apologize. So the first thing we do is, before we set up what is the penalty for an inadvertent killing, in other words, by accident, we need to see what or an inadvertent wounding, we need to see what the penalty is if it's done on purpose. And what we're saying here is whether you wound a parent or kill a parent, both have a death penalty, should it be done on purpose. And we want to know what to do in a case when it happens by accident. Is that pretty clear? Okay. So what we are saying is, for wounding a parent, there is strangulation. Okay, and on purpose. In other words, if you cause bruising, and you cause your parent to bleed, in that particular case, it's a death penalty by strangulation. Now, according to Rabbi Shimon, by the way, he's even more strict. He says you don't even have to draw blood or blood under the skin of bruising. Striking a parent suffices. But be that as it may, either way, both the rabbis and Rabbi Shimon say that this bottom line is that for wounding a parent, there's death by strangulation. And for killing one's parent, there's death by beheading, as there is that death penalty for killing any human being. Any human being. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that the Jewish court isn't going to convict a Jew for killing a non-Jew, because we were living in Roman times, and Israel was a vassal state of Rome, and the Romans were horrendous. And the last thing we wanted was an entire community burnt down because we killed a Roman, for killed a Roman without the vassal state's permission of the Roman emperor. And there was a secular court system and a Jewish court system, but within the Sanhedrin, different rules apply. So the bottom line is, we're just talking about a Jew killing a Jew here, although it's a Noahide blanket rule that murder is not allowed. We're just keeping it to the Sanhedrin for now. So a Jew killing a Jew, or a son killing his father, same death penalty, it would be beheading, whereas wounding a parent would be strangulation. Does everybody get that if it was done on purpose? If you get that, we can build the next block. Okay,
Good.
fine. Now, the next block is as follows: is we want to know what to do if it happens accidentally, because we have to extrapolate from the purposeful act. So, what the Mishnah says is it turns around and says a son is exiled for killing a parent. Now, what happens is the killing of the parent here, it's not talking about drowning a parent. It's talking about the death at which most people died from a trauma wound of either a sharp object or a blunt instrument causing the impact. And either one will create blood, either externally or bruising underneath by the skull or wherever it is. So in that particular case, when you're doing a killing in this case, you happen to also be transgressing as a son, wounding the parent prior to that parent suffering a mortal blow and dying from that wound. So the question is, if it was done accidentally, the Brisa is saying that the son is not exiled because it's a penalty too severe for him to be exiled. So in that particular case, he would get the death penalty. We wouldn't even allow it to be a stage where the person would have the go'ala dam, etc. He would be executed because there's wounding a parent, and then as a result, that parent dies. So therefore, he wouldn't even get exile; he would be killed. As far as the um, as far as the Mishnah is concerned, the child, in fact, would be exiled if it happened inadvertently, and uh, and in that particular case would be subject to atonement. So our question is, how can there be a contradiction between the Brisa and the Mishnah? Because the Brisa again is talking about wounding a parent and a parent dying accidentally. It's not on purpose. So why should the son deserve to die for such an offense? Again, it was accidental. Okay, there was a certain degree of negligence, and that's why there's not deemed as a unavoidable accident, but there was no gross negligence. And therefore, Rav Kahana answers and said, listen, it's quite clear to resolve, is that the Brisa reflects the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. And the Mishnah that we're dealing with now, in 8b2, reflects the opinion of the rabbis. And what they do is they disagree which is a more severe form of execution, beheading or strangulation. Now, Aidan, before you came on, I shared a screen in Coral Draw. And I don't think you and your uncle were able to see that. But basically, the rabbis say that beheading is more severe than strangulation. And according to Rabbi Shimon, strangulation is more severe than beheading. So what we do is we use that representationally to say that if it was done on purpose, you would apply the greater death penalty because you've done two capital offenses here: wound a parent and killed a parent. And therefore, we can only, if done on purpose, apply the more stringent penalty, because if somebody committed two capital crimes, then what happens is we can only apply one death penalty, and therefore we don't go for the more merciful one, because if somebody is eligible to die, why should we suddenly, when they commit another homicide or another crime, give them a lighter penalty? If anything, they should get the more severe penalty by logic, because they are habitually creating capital offenses. So from logic we do it, and also from an atonement perspective, is that since we can only kill a person once, we apply the more stringent penalty that will cover both offenses. What offenses can somebody die for? Idolatry, adultery, or other sexual infractions like incest, and obviously capital cases, and blasphemy. So since that would be the case, we would choose the most severe penalty if done on purpose. So where we come down to is we say that, look, the whole reason the Bryce is according to Rabbi Shimon is he deems that strangulation is more severe than beheading. Okay? So if a person deliberately struck and killed his parent, and that would occur prior, he'd be executed for strangulation rather than beheading. So we say it doesn't matter what view it is. In other words, for wounding a parent, strangulation; for killing a parent, beheading, as would be the death penalty for killing any Jew. And therefore, it doesn't matter. You apply the most stringent death penalty across the board. So we are saying now quite simply who actually sees the most stringent death penalty. So according to Rabbi Shimon, it's strangulation is more severe than beheading, and therefore the brisa goes with that, if it was deliberate. Now, as far as the rabbis are concerned, it would be that beheading is more severe than strangulation. So the issue then becomes, with it inadvertence, there has to be a parallel. Okay, so what the revealing part of this is that if you can only get exiled for a crime of how it relates. In other words, exile is not for Aiden, is not for any of the other death penalties. I don't know. Are you focused? Are you taking notes, or are you on a WhatsApp? Or can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I'm just fidgeting with a box. Sorry.
Yeah, I watch everybody, Chana. Everybody.
I'm not. It's not my phone or anything. It's just a box that I'm fidgeting with.
So it's not personal. Don't worry, I pick on everybody. So what we are saying is that the bottom line is that there's only one crime that a person gets exiled for, and that's for an inadvertent killing. If there's a little degree of negligence, but not gross negligence. Otherwise, they wouldn't even get the atonement aspect nor exile, and they'd be susceptible to killing by the victim's relatives. So only on a murder-based capital offense, if done on purpose, if it's done with a slight degree of negligence inadvertently, that they get exiled, but not for any other capital crime like adultery, sexual crimes, or incest, or idolatry or blasphemy. Therefore, since that's the killing aspect, we don't know what to do with the wounding aspect. So we're saying it doesn't matter. We apply the most stringent penalty. We take both the wounding that led to the death, and according to Rabbi Shimon, he says strangulation is worse than beheading. According to the rabbis, they say beheading is worse than strangulation. And the reason that the Mishnah says that there is exile for a son killing a parent is quite simply because they see beheading as more stringent. Now, because there's beheading, only for a capital crime of intentional murder is there beheading, and therefore, they are eligible for exile. But according to Rabbi Shimon, who sees strangulation as more severe than beheading, whichever you apply, the wounding aspect or the killing, and he sees that as the more severe death penalty, and Aiden, we can only apply the death penalty once, and we take the most stringent. There's no parallel between strangulation and exile. It's only for a crime of beheading, which gets the penalty if done on purpose of beheading. So that's the view of the Mishnah, that beheading, since done on purpose, is the more severe of the two death penalties, and that covers both the wounding and the killing. Then that would lead to exile if done accidentally with a little degree of negligence. And as far as Rabbi Shimon, who sees strangulation as worse than beheading, since it's worse, that would cover both the wounding and the killing. But for strangulation, there's no parallel to exile, because it would have to be beheading. In other words, just the death aspect of murdering any Jew on purpose versus inadvertently. Have I explained it clearly to everybody?
Yeah. So if you go according to sorry, I've gone blank for the rabbi as well. I think it's Rabbi Shimon or whatever. But the one that says that it's strangulation. Then if you go according to that interpretation, right, and he is the author of the Mishnah, right, or the Mishnah follows him, not the rabbis. Yeah,
No. Rabbi Shimon, good question, Gav. The Brisa follows Rabbi Shimon, which seems to contradict the Mishnah.
Okay, the Brisa.
Yeah.
The Brisa. Okay, sorry. Okay. So the Brisa follows Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Shimon is saying that it's strangulation is more severe than beheading. So therefore, if you go according to his interpretation, if there's an inadvertent killing, that person, that son, wouldn't go to exile because he wouldn't be allowed to, because there's no correlation to beheading. Correct? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, that's exactly what I'm saying.
All
If it
right,
was
just
done
checking.
inadvertently. Now, this is the thing. This is the thing. This is the question, is that there are opinions that say he wouldn't go to exile. And then the question that's asked is, if he isn't going to exile, does he get the death penalty? So not for inadvertently wounding or killing a parent. What would be happening then is he wouldn't get the atonement aspect because it's too severe. And the goel adam, the father might have a brother that might kill the son, but he doesn't get the death penalty because it's inadvertent. The death penalty is only for on purpose. But he doesn't get the atonement and he doesn't get the protection from the Goel Adam, according to Rabbi Shimon, because the only time you get, both according to the rabbis and Rabbi Shimon, is that you can get exile is if it's a crime that parallels beheading if done on purpose. And the severity at which they hold being done, where Rabbi Shimon says strangulation is more severe than beheading, then whichever aspect you take, the wounding or the killing, then we apply that death penalty because we can only kill the person once. It will atone for both. But if done inadvertently, we can't exile. That person doesn't get the merit of atonement or protection. The rabbis say we take the more serious of the two death penalties, which is beheading, and therefore that would cover beheading and strangulation of both crimes. And therefore, if done inadvertently, it would result in being allowed to go to exile and get the atonement and protection from Goel Adam. Okay.
Got it.
Aidan, you want to give it over?
Okay, so Rabbi Shimon holds that uh that beheading is worse than strangulation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so when a son like kills his father by wounding him, when he gets punished, he'll get the more stringent death penalty, which would be beheading. So therefore, when the same thing is done accidentally, he won't be sent into exile because the only death penalty that you get sent into exile for doing it accidentally is the strangulation one.
No. You got it completely mixed up.
Oh,
But
did I
you
make
know,
okay? Then
no,
the only one is
okay,
for
get
the
another
beheading.
try. Okay, start again. You got it there, almost.
Okay, yeah.
Give it another bash.
Okay, so Rabbi Shimon holds that strangulation is worse than beheading. Is that
Perfect.
correct?
Perfect.
Okay, so therefore, when like a son kills his father by wounding him, he gets the more stringent death penalty, which in Rabbi Shimon's eyes would be strangulation.
Perfect.
So so when the same crime is done accidentally, the son wouldn't be sent into exile because exile only applies if when the crime is done on purpose, the death penalty is beheading.
Perfect. Perfect. Slam dunk. All
I
right.
just mixed up the death
No,
penalties
I knew you knew
the
what was
first
going
time.
on. So the bottom line is only four factors. Number one, which is held more stringently, strangulation or beheading? By the rabbis, it's beheading. By Rabbi Shimon, it's strangulation. So that's determined as the first factor being stringency. Now, there's another crime. One is a capital crime of wounding a parent. The other one is for killing another Jew, which in this case happens to be a parent. And there are two different death penalties: strangulation for wounding a parent and beheading for killing a parent or a Jew. And therefore, whether you hold by Rabbi Shimon or um, the rabbis, either way, you have to apply the more stringent death penalty, but it's in the order of priority of what they see as more severe. And therefore, since they apply the more severe one, if done on purpose, if done accidentally, the only way that person could get atonement and protection for the Goel Adam, the victim's relatives, is if it parallels to beheading. And since that's seen as more severe and would cover both capital crimes, the rabbis say the son is eligible for the protection of the city of refuge as well as exile. And as far as Rabbi Shimon is concerned, it doesn't correlate with beheading. He agrees with the rabbis there. because he says strangulation is more stringent. And therefore, because we could only apply it once, the son is not entitled to go to the city of refuge nor get atonement through exile. And that's the bottom line. That's honestly the bottom line. We can just finish the last bit here. So that's Rav Kahana. And Rava reconciles the Mishnah and the Brisa differently. So now that you've absorbed Rav Kahana, Rava is saying that the Brisa, he's got a completely different interpretation, which excludes from exile a son who strikes a father is not speaking of a case of killing a father, right? Rather, it's a verse quoted in the Brisa, and it excludes a son who inadvertently inflicts his wound upon a father. So it's saying, okay, what it's saying is it's not merging the two according to Rav. It's saying, look, in a case of done on purpose, there's a death penalty. But if you inadvertently inflict a wound on the father, since that penalty is strangulation, if done on purpose, it wouldn't be parallel to exile. Okay? But you might have thought to say that, listen, you've done something far worse here. If you'd have killed a parent on purpose, you would have actually been sent to exile had you done it accidentally. In other words, Rava is saying, look, if you're wounding a parent, it correlates with strangulation if done on purpose. Now, you would compare that to a case of if you had to kill a parent on purpose, a son would get the death penalty, but if done it inadvertently would go to exile. So you can think, hang on, what's worse, wounding or killing if done on purpose? And 99% of people would say, listen, it's one thing to wound a parent, but there's a general injunction not to even kill another human being, never mind a Jew, and even worse for your parent. Killing is the worst. So if done on purpose, you get the death penalty. Surely, if done inadvertently by accident, with a bit of negligence, you could have done better. If you get exiled for that, imagine something less serious and just wounding a person or just wounding a parent or striking a parent. Even more so, you should be allowed to go to exile because it seems not as bad. And therefore, what the Mishnah is coming to tell you is that, and the Bryce is coming to tell you, is that it still has to correlate with the death penalty of beheading. So that's how Rava puts a spin on it. Does that make sense, guys? He explains it in a different way of what you would think is more severe. He's using logic there. Guys, does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Aiden, does it make sense?
To be honest, I didn't completely get it.
All right, it's fine, but that's why I'm going through it. So this thing with Rabbis is saying, look, we've got 3 minutes, Aiden. There's a more very clear explanation. If you look at the view of the rabbis, they consider beheading more severe than strangulation. Okay? That's according to the rabbis, and therefore murder is more severe than striking a parent. Anybody would say, listen, you murdered your parent off with your head. If somebody said you wounded your parent, not everybody would be that quick to necessarily give the son a death penalty. So you might have thought that since exile is used to atone for the more severe crime of inadvertent murder, meaning if murder is worse if done on purpose than wounding, then surely if you inadvertently killed, you would certainly think that if somebody inadvertently wounded a parent, you'd be allowed to go to exile because it seems less hectic. And therefore, the Mishnah and the Brisa is saying are both consistent with each other. There's no inconsistency. They just refer to different issues. The Brisa is referring to a case of wounding a parent, and therefore strangulation wouldn't parallel to beheading, whereas the Mishnah is talking about killing a parent on purpose, which would be beheading, but accidentally exiled. Only a parallel between beheading for a capital offense would relate to exile. So they've got different ways of explaining it. The one's more logical and the one is like more of a convoluted argument, but both sound.
Oh, all right. Okay, fine.
Okay. Now,
Okay.
I've tried to make this as simple as possible. Believe me when I tell you, there was a lot of work to do to get it this simple. Trust me. Okay. Gavin Simpson, Lance, are you there? Hello? How, guys?
Yeah.
Just want to see
Oh, good, man. Thank
for a
you.
minute. Gavin Simpson, did it make sense to you? Lance?
No, it does. Absolutely. I'll get my nephew to explain to me afterwards.
Okay. Oh, then I didn't do a good enough job.
No, you did a great job. Thank you.
All right, guys. Listen, have a great evening, and I hope I didn't make it too complicated. I'll try to take it.
No, it was great. It was amazing.
Yeah, there's 49b, there's 85b on Sanhedrin, there's Makkos 8a, there's like 4 parallels. If you saw those notes, it just there was errors on ChatGPT, 4 errors, so we had to fix it. All right,
Nice.
cool guys, keeping it simple because I'm not that
Great.
smart. Be well. Cheers.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Yeah.
Shut
Thanks, well
guys.
done.